What's up, everybody? Welcome to Podcast Now. I'm Alex, and in this video, I want to talk about some scenes that I think Sam could be hallucinating in Scream 5 or Scream 2022. So just a few days ago, we got basically the new featurette, I would call it, of Scream, and we also got the TV spots. And now, if you put them kind of all together, one thing that definitely rings true or is the most, there, right, blatantly there, is Sam has hallucinations. Now, we've heard this before. I believe originally, even when talking about the concept of this character, originally was when it wasn't even offered to Melissa Barrera, there were talk of she would have to take pills to kind of calm herself down. So this stuff has been around for an okay amount of time, but now we saw a definitive example of her hallucinating something, right? We saw that at her drinking from the sink in the hospital, and she sees Ghostface behind her, but he's not actually there, and then he is there, and he attacks, which I do believe that's, exactly how that scene plays out. Now, I want to talk about a couple other scenes that I feel like there's at least a possibility that it could be just something she's imagining. One of which would be a stretch, and I kind of want to start with that one first, is Amber on fire. So I'm making the definitive, statement that is still Amber, 100% on fire. And I feel like if that scene happens and it's real, I think we have a good amount of reason to be pretty upset at, the trailer and whoever put together the trailer, because it's I don't care how many Mr. X you say you have in it. If Amber gets lit on fire in front of Sydney somehow, now obviously a lot of you eagle-eyed people had noticed the gas stove was on behind her. So it's very possible, she gets alcohol of some kind on her. Maybe Sydney does that, and maybe at some point Sydney does turn on the stove, and then they kind of switch places, and she lights herself on fire. I mean, that would be clever. That would be cool. Granted, though, in order to make my, my theory, my conspiracy, is, to let that go for now. But I really think that's a good idea, and that probably, honestly, is what's going to happen. Which still, in my opinion, sucks because we still see it. So we know, in my opinion, Amber is most likely a Ghostface. That's just, and if you don't want to believe that, that's totally, totally cool. But I don't see a reason why someone would get lit on fire, besides that. Now, you could say maybe it's all an accident, and it's well, that's quite some accident that Amber is a complete victim in all of this, and then she ends up dying by accident because someone spills something on her, and then somebody accidentally turns a stove on. That would be quite a way to go for a completely innocent victim in the Scream story. So I'm gonna make the judgment call that it's not that way. However, again, like I said, one final thing could be that entire sequence is imagined. That's not actually real. Because one interesting thing that we've seen parts, we don't see Sam and Sydney together at any point in that house. We see Sam answering the call, and you could see it from the door. We see Sam stabbing somebody, which is the second scene I actually want to talk about in a second. And we see Sydney, scoping out the entire house, getting a call from Ghostface, going upstairs. I mean, we see a lot of stuff there, but we never see them with each other. So, I mean, maybe Sam gets knocked out or whatever. Maybe Sam just at some point imagines that a final sequence happens in the movie, and it's not actually the final sequence, and then we get one. I don't think that's going to happen, but I do think it's a possibility, and it would, maybe in a way save the fact that we see, her clearly on fire, and then you can make the argument that that's stupid, that you see her on fire, it's such a big scene, and then they're gonna cop out and say, oh, that's just a hallucination. So I think it's almost a lose-lose no matter what, and so we'll just have to see which one they pick. The second scene is the same area, and I just mentioned a couple seconds ago when Sam is stabbing, and again, I'm gonna go based off of my intuition and what I can kind of gather from it, and you can make your own decision. In the very first trailer, right, we see Sam stabbing somebody towards the end. And that somebody is definitely Richie. Again, I say definitely, I say for sure. I guess it's for sure for me that I believe it. Again, if you don't think that's who it is, that's more than fine. I think that's Amber on fire. I think that's Richie being stabbed, but that's just, my opinion. I really think that's him, though. You could tell by the hair. It's the exact same hair that Jack Quaid has, and you could see it, and throughout the entire movie. So I really just think that's it. I also think, by the way, in a couple days ago's, featurette, when Sydney, right before she gets attacked by Ghostface, a couple people pointed out she's aiming a gun at somebody, and the hair again looks like Jack Quaid. So I think she's aiming the gun at Richie. Maybe he's like held hostage, which maybe signals he's doing that on purpose to get her to trust him, or maybe he actually is Ghostface, right? And then Ghostface pops up. So we know Richie is there at that, house party, or is just there in general. And so the reason I say this could be a hallucination is just, when I kind of think about how this scene could play out, I feel like we haven't really seen in a Scream movie a Sydney character, right, being almost the aggressor. Now, there are obviously scenes where she fights back, and 3, even with Roman, there's quite a back and forth I think is pretty different than any other, movie they've done. But, I don't know if I'm explaining it perfectly, right? But you just think about how a scene like that could play out. Sam looks very angry, / maybe, alarmed, and, she's going down for, an overhead, strike or stab on this character. Now, maybe right before then, he has the upper hand on her, and then she flips on him, and she's just about to stab him, and she kills him or whatever. But so that could happen where she's not the aggressor. But the way the scene is played out, granted it could be a misdirect, definitely looks like she's attacking. Now maybe that was put in there to I guess put doubt in our heads that maybe she is a Ghostface, the final girl could be Ghostface. The same way in a sense with Jill, right? They could have been that reasoning. But I almost have again, this is just an assumption. This is just not even an assumption. I don't actually think this is going to happen either. Just a theory that maybe she imagines that too. Maybe she imagines Richie. Maybe she starts to get a little, cautious of him, and maybe she imagines him attacking her, and she ends up, absolutely destroying him and killing him. But that's not actually real. I don't know. I feel like we haven't really seen that where she's gonna be on the higher ground. He's clearly below her, right? Maybe he's kneeling, or she knocks him over, and she's going in to strike. It could also, by the way, just be a scene where she's about to hit him, and then he kicks her, or he rolls out of the way and she misses. It doesn't have to be a final blow thing, but it also could maybe not be real. Final thing, this is kind of just a throw in. What we do know now, right? Because the hospital is now this beacon for probably, maybe not the first time we'll see a hallucination from her, but maybe it is, right? And maybe it's the most clear that she's having some mental problems. There's a couple scenes in the hospital, right, where she's running around, she's tripping over things, and I think maybe some of that could also be hallucinations. I only say that probably as a movie device, because you're going to show it once when she's drinking the water, but you could show it in a chase scene where she gets so paranoid and scared she literally imagines things, and so maybe she is running into chairs and tripping over stuff, but Ghostface isn't real, or maybe she's just imagining the entire thing, right? It depends on how they do it. No, I'm not saying the entire hospital thing in general isn't real. We see her on the phone multiple times, actually, in multiple things. Dewey is obviously there. Richie is obviously there at some point. Tara is there. Obviously, Sydney will be there to say, hi to her, but I think she'll end up leaving. So what I'm saying is you have other characters, right? So when Ghostface is attacking Dewey and all that stuff, I don't think that's a projection from Sam. I think that's actually happening. I just think maybe they could do, if there's a long chase scene, maybe they could sprinkle a couple hallucination moments in there. So that's, to me, what I think. I do think there's, by the way, scenes. I do have a theory overall about Stab 8 in this film that I do want to make a video on very, very soon. But in terms of things specifically, that Sam herself is hallucinating on, these are the things I would say, I would imagine, or at least possibilities. Again, I think that's Amber on Fire. I think it's going to play out how we theorize. The Richie thing, I think, is a little bit more shaky, because that I think is a little bit more ambiguous, and so we'll have to see what they end up doing. So let me know what you guys think in the comments below. Make sure, as always, you guys are subscribed to the channel. Hit the bell icon so you guys know when all these videos go up. All my social media is in the description below if you guys want to check it out. I have a Twitter, I have a second channel, I also have Patreon and YouTube memberships. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you all on the next video.